welcome to Meet the Candidates. My name is Justin Kim, and I'm your current student member of the Board of Education. It's a great honor for me to address you all today, and this is a special moment for me because just a year ago, I was one of the candidates sitting across the table, and I'm so grateful to have been presented with this opportunity to serve and represent you all as a student member of the Board of Education. As your Smob, I've been busy at work pushing the students' agenda. At the beginning of the school year, the board adopted the new strategic planning framework, which is a new roadmap for MCPS that emphasizes 3 competencies in academic excellence, problem solving, and social and emotional learning, or SEL. SEL is a competency that asks some of these critical questions. Can you work with others? Can you put yourself in someone else's shoes? Do you know what's good for yourself? Or perhaps, do you know yourself? These are all just areas of students' development that we're hoping to support as a school system. Our goal is to develop students who are not simply good test takers, but rather good people with strong critical thinking skills. We also believe that success should not be predictable by race, gender, or socioeconomic status, and that is why we're tackling the achievement gap with new, innovative, practical solutions. This year, we've identified 10 high-need schools to which we're providing more resources, reducing classroom sizes, and developing the capacity of the leadership teams in those schools. Further, our new Career Lattice program will also attract some of our best teachers to high-need schools, and we're already looking forward to expanding this model into other schools in our county. Furthermore, the Board of Education is revamping the alternative programs, rethinking what college and career readiness looks like, looking at impacts of changing school start times, conducting an audit of our special ed programs, exploring bring your own device policies, and much more. But being a Smob also means keeping up with the movement in the legislative world. A few weeks ago, a state senator from Anne Arundel County proposed legislation that would essentially strip the voting rights of the Anne Arundel County Smob. I testified before the Senate Education Committee against this bill, along with Carmen Huynh, the president of the high school county level student government here in Montgomery County. And thanks in part to our efforts, the bill was defeated. And in the coming weeks, I'll be returning to Annapolis with the Smob Advisory Council to advocate for capital funding that we desperately need to alleviate overcrowding issues in our schools. Today, as you consider the candidates for the next student member, I ask that you take this election very seriously. The next student member of the board will be representing you in a critical year when the PARCC assessments will replace MSAs, curriculums will continue to undergo changes, and new programs and practices will be implemented and expanded in MCPS. Besides all this, the Smob has to balance their duties with school and personal life. As I look back on my term and look forward to the exciting work in the months ahead, for me it's been a very hard job, but also an extremely rewarding one. In a few moments, you'll meet the candidates and have an opportunity to listen to their answers as they address questions posed to them by your fellow students. As the election is nearing, I want to leave you with some things to consider. Think about who is passionately committed to representing and serving the students. Think about who can best understand these complex issues at hand. Think about who will best represent the student body before adult representatives. I'd like to wish all of our candidates the best of luck, and I look forward to hearing from them. Thank you and good luck.
Welcome to Meet the Candidates, where you, as an informed student, will be able to make an educated decision on who you would like to represent you as a student member of the Board of Education. I'm Carmen Huynh, a senior at Seneca Valley High School and president of the Montgomery County Regional Student Government Association, the umbrella organization of the student government associations in 25 high schools across Montgomery County, and I will be hosting the discussion today. And now, let's meet the candidates for the 37th student member of the Board of Education. Dahlia Huh is currently serving as an executive board official in the Montgomery County Regional Student Government Association, otherwise known as MCR. She is also the deputy director of outreach for the current Smob, Justin Kim. At Clarksburg High School, she is the vice president of Student Government Association. Dahlia also serves as a social entrepreneur, co-founding philanthropic search engine Good50.com, and is a published author of a 350-page novel. Calvin Ye is currently the chief of staff to the Montgomery County Regional Student Government Association, and current Smob Justin Kim. He is also serving on the governor's Maryland Youth Advisory Council as legislative co-chairman. Calvin was also a lobbying coordinator and senior legislative aide to former Smobs Alan Shea and John Manis, respectively. Welcome to both candidates. Earlier, we asked students in MCPS to email questions that they wanted to ask the Smob candidates. Along with a few of my own questions, I will be asking you questions that students have submitted. I'll ask you both to keep your responses to 1 minute so that we have time to discuss multiple issues. Our first question comes from Omisa Jinsey, Montgomery County Junior Council President and an 8th grader at Hoover Middle School. It's no surprise that students have a lot of work at school. The amount of stress students have to undergo due to their workload can be very harsh. How would you, as Smob, try to better inform the local educational leaders about the day-to-day stress of students? Calvin, you'll answer first.
When I served on the task force that created the new strategic planning framework, we adopted social-emotional learning as a core value in MCPS. Social-emotional learning is about focusing on student wellness. Recently, I testified to the Board of Education on this very issue, and I urged Dr. Starr to create a work group that would combine student, parent, teacher, and administrative opinions to find an innovative solution to solve this problem. As students, our time is valuable, and rather than doing busy work, we need to be learning skills that prepare us for the real world.
And Dahlia, what do you think?
Well, every day, students are burdened with an incredible amount of homework, projects, and stress. I recently talked to Dr. Starr at the Board of Education meeting with student leaders in December to talk about reprioritizing our educational values. Is it important that we value students' time outside the classroom as well as inside the classroom? It's not only a local issue, it's also a national issue. Education seems to be more and more focused on the amount of work we get and quantity over quality. So what I want to do as Smob next year is to work not only with our local representatives, our local county councilmen and Board of Education members, but also at the national level to make sure that education is focused more around quality rather than quantity.
So the next question was sent by Milka Piszczek, a senior at Richard Montgomery High School, and she asks, what is your stance on MCPS funding for extracurricular activities, specifically creating teacher stipends for more diverse student organizations? And how do you plan on accomplishing this? Dahlia?
Well, Montgomery County has maintained one of the most distinguished school systems in the nation for one reason. Our students are well-rounded, talented, and passionate. As Smob, I like to continue to advocate for our extracurricular programs, especially stipends for our teachers, because it's important that we recognize the dedication of our sponsors that propel our extracurricular activities to the top of this nation's system. As Smob, I'd like to continue to work with organizations such as MoCo First and other engineering, arts and literacy and electives to make sure that our Smob is informed on all of these electives. And I'd like to work with you to make sure your clubs at your schools are heard at the board level.
And Calvin?
Well, as an active member of several clubs, I truly understand the value that our clubs and extracurriculars play in MCPS. Each of us has different interests, and these clubs and organizations allow us to really follow our passions and our interests. On the issue of teacher stipends, which would compensate teachers for their time spent as a club sponsor, I'm a strong advocate for supporting our clubs, and I recently introduced legislation in the Montgomery County Regional Student Governments Association that would ask the board to please address this issue.
Our next question comes from Christina McCann, a junior at Montgomery Blair High School, and it deals with advocacy for students with disabilities. She asks, sometimes students with IEPs and 504 plans do not receive their full accommodations. How would you encourage this underrepresented group to speak out about their needs? In addition to that, what steps can the school system take to better ensure that special needs students receive their proper accommodations, especially given the recent controversy over the reversal of the burden of proof guidelines? Calvin?
504 plans are individualized education plans that allow our students with disabilities to learn on a level that's right for them. This can include use of a computer for all writing assignments or extra time on a test. Every student in Montgomery County deserves to be challenged on a level that's right for them, and IEP and 504 plans are part of that solution. I would like to support our IEP and 504 plans as Smob and definitely ensure that we have a highly individualized education for every single one of our students.
And Dahlia?
all students in MCPS deserve to have the quality of education that MCPS promises them. 504 plans and IEPs allow us to do that, and that's why I'm a strong supporter of these programs. Our special needs students and all students in general need to make sure individualized education is a priority. These 504 plans and IEPs allow students to have extra time on the test if their reading level isn't at the standard, and use of a calculator on some math tests. But basically, it allows students to really take tests and quizzes and learn in an environment that's right for them. So I support individualizing education for all students, and this is why I support these programs.
We often speak about the interests of different student groups, but it is in fact true that each student holds different unique interests. We constantly say that as a student member of the Board of Education, you are expected to advocate for the entire diverse student body of MCPS. However, advocacy can have different meanings. Securing funding for specific extracurriculars is one means of it. To you, what does it mean to be a student advocate? And we'll start with Dahlia.
Right, so my life has been a record of service to my school, to my community, and from being an executive officer on the countywide SGA, I've learned many things. And I've learned that being a student advocate isn't all about sitting behind a board table, locked in a boardroom meeting, but it's about reaching out, and that's why these past couple months I've been visiting your schools and making sure that I hear from you, because it's important that as students we hear from one another, I see your perspective, and it's important that next year as Smob we have someone who understands a student's perspective to these board policies.
And Calvin?
Well, since I've been a candidate, I've had the privilege of speaking to so many different students and listening to their concerns. From overpopulation and construction issues at BCC and Seneca Valley to petitions for open lunch at Gaithersburg High School, there's a diversity of issues in MCPS that we need to address. As Smob, I want to be a true advocate for the students, and you need someone who truly understands these issues. This election is not about us, it's about you, and we need to bring your voices to the board table and your ideas into their solutions.
The next question comes from Amanpreet Kaur, a senior from Seneca Valley High School, and she asks, how would you use peer input to convey realistic perspectives of the student voice when facing difficult issues such as bullying, pedestrian safety, mental or psychological needs, and stress during your tenure on the board's policy committee? And Calvin, we'll start with you.
No one deserves to go to school in fear for their own safety. Whether it's bullying or pedestrian safety, our board has a mandate to keep our students safe. That means working with our students in our SGAs to develop real solutions and work groups that address this problem. You know your school better than anyone else on the board table, and that's why your voice deserves to be heard.
And Dahlia?
Student input is key, and that's why one of my platform items is to increase communication between the Smob and students, and thereby increasing student input on the policy-making decisions. I'd rather have that students are proactive rather than reactive, and it's important that we play a key part in making our own future. Social media has been an incredibly powerful tool throughout this election and in past elections as well. So social media is one way where you can gather input. Facebook is incredibly powerful, and some of the posts have reached over 60,000 students, and we need to make sure that to get input from all across the county, from middle school to high school, it's important that we stay connected.
I've learned in my term of office as MCR president how quickly one term really moves. A year is a really short time period to make real changes, especially in a system as large as MCPS. So the next question comes from a senior at Northwest High School, and she asks, what is the most underrated issue in our educational system, and what can be done during your time as Smob to most effectively address this issue? How would you make more students aware of this issue? And we're going to start with Dahlia.
The most underrated issue is full Smob voting rights, and the reason we don't see change year to year is because the Smob does not have the ability to vote on the budget, and the budget controls everything from how much technology we integrate in our classrooms, what kind of textbooks we buy, so it's important that the Smob is able to vote on the budget. Now, 20 years ago, we had one Smob, Carrie Baker, and she did have this ability to vote on all the issues that the board decides. But we need to bring that back to the table. Next year, there's a very favorable environment in the Maryland Senate, and that's where we need to get this bill to pass. So as Smob, I'd like to advocate and invite everyone to come out to Annapolis on those days so we lobby our state legislators and make sure that we get these Smob full voting rights that we've worked so hard to achieve.
And Calvin?
Many of our schools have aged considerably over the last couple of years, and they're no longer able to support the number of students that we have. Some of our schools have asbestos in the walls, which causes cancer. Some of our schools have used portables. This is unacceptable for a school system that values academic excellence. As Smob, I will strongly support expediting the renovation of our schools and also expediting the removal of lead pipes in our schools. Our school system is growing by thousands of students every year. Some of our elementary schools are almost 150% over capacity. This is not sustainable. We need direct, clear solutions on this on the modernization of our schools. We need state support and state funding for this issue, and that's the type of leadership I'll bring as Smob.
As one candidate to another, one of the final two candidates for the State Board of Education and a junior at Wooten High School asks, do you support Common Core? Elaborate on your stance. And we are going to start with Calvin.
Common Core, which manifests itself as Curriculum 2.0 in Montgomery County, is a new set of national standards for all students. There's been a lot of controversy lately with the implementation of Common Core. In MCPS, there are questions about how the PARCC assessments are going to replace the NSAs next year. Regardless of what we think of it, Common Core is coming. We have to prepare for its implementation and ensure that it is serving our students in an effective and efficient manner. As Smob, I want to work with our 151,000 students, create work groups that really help students analyze curriculum and find solutions that work for all of our students.
And Dahlia, what do you think?
Right, so Common Core is a new state standard which prepares students for college and career. But the thing is, MCPS is already so advanced, and Common Core was aimed at other counties and other school districts who are not doing as well as MCPS. Since MCPS's graduation rate is 88.6%, we have top-notch test scores, top-notch teachers. Common Core actually holds us back. And as Smob, it would be important to me to work with our board members and local legislators to make sure that Common Core is implemented as smoothly and efficiently as possible into our school system, because although it has well intentions, it's not executed as properly as it could be. And as Smob, this is what I'd like to do to make sure that our voice is heard on all issues.
Our next question deals with standardization and comes from a senior at Northwood High School. He asks, as you both are opposed to increasing standardized testing, which is a part of federal and state law, what do you suggest to take its place in determining achievement and teaching ability, and how would you advocate for it? Dahlia, we'll begin with you.
So on my extended platform on my website, I actually do oppose standardized testing, and here's why. Standardized testing is not for everyone. It's about how well we bubble in a piece of paper on a Scantron. That's not what should judge us, and that's not what should judge our teachers. Standardized testing inhibits individualized education, and what our county needs to become progressive and become the best county in the nation is not more standardized tests, but less standardized tests so that students can pursue their passions and their careers, which may not be a couple questions where we get penalized for incorrect answers. It's not about having mandated essays and 4 hours sitting in a test room. It's about optional essays and making sure that students are prepared for the real world and not just for a bunch of tests.
And Calvin, what do you think?
At the students' meeting with the Board of Education, I asked several of our board members about potential alternatives to standardized testing. Just as recently as March, there were reports that students are being tested for an extremely excessive amount of time during the school year. We want our students to be more than memorizers and good test takers. We want to challenge them and have a holistic approach that tests real understanding of the curriculum. We need a solution that works for all of our students and really tests an understanding of the curriculum and shows a true education and skills that will prepare us for the real world.
So the next question relates to another hot button topic in MCPS, and it comes from a 7th grader from Roberto Clemente Middle School. And he asks, to what extent do you think compacted curriculum will address the recent controversy that has arisen over the difficulty of math courses within Curriculum 2.0? Address this question in the following manner. First, explain what compacted curriculum is, and then proceed to answering the rest of the question. Calvin?
Every student deserves to be challenged on a level that's right for them. Curriculum compacting is the process of identifying certain selective students and having them advance to a higher level of math. This is a good start and helps address some of the concerns with math not being challenging enough for some students. But we need to go further. We need to have a system that individualizes education for every student, that challenges them on a level that's correct for them. We need more than just simple patches. We need solutions. And that's something that I will bring as your next student member on the Board of Education.
And Dahlia?
So Curriculum 2.0 definitely impacts our math and the way it's taught on the elementary school level. Our county prides itself in its rigorous workload and excelling students and pushing them to take some challenges. So as Smob, I'd like to work with elementary school students, even though they are not voting in this election, to make sure that Curriculum 2.0 is right for them, because eventually it will prepare them for middle and high school. Math programs are definitely important in this kind of economy and in our global education. So what we need is a Smob who understands not only these issues, understands not only what Curriculum 2.0 will do not only now but in the future, so that we can adequately and accurately replay these messages to the Board of Education members.
Today, technology plays such a huge role in our educational lives. The computer labs that we once knew and loved are becoming outdated and replaced by mobile labs and tablets. Superintendent Dr. Starr recommended that $3 million of the fiscal year 2015 operating budget be allocated towards providing new technologies to the classroom. Our last question comes from a junior at Wheaton High School who asks, how would you like to see technology integrated in the classroom? What can be done to make integration more efficient and engaging for students? And we're going to start that question off with Dahlia.
So technology is becoming an increasingly prevalent force in our society, and that's why we need to bring it into education. I completely support Dr. Starr's decision to allocate $3 million to integrating tablets into our school systems. There's currently a pilot program going on in a couple middle schools in the Down County Conservatorium area, and I've actually visited Pyle Middle School where the pilot program is taking place. So what I'd like to do as Smob is to continue the integration of technology, because pretty soon, like you said, computer labs will be outdated, and we spend a lot of time moving from computer lab to the classroom and back, and that's a waste of time for our students. So if we can bring your own device, which is basically allowing students to bring their own tablets and smartphones into the classroom to use, and if we connect that with student access to Wi-Fi in our schools, that will push MCPS to become one of the best counties in the nation instead of just being among them.
And Calvin?
Technology moves us forward. When I met with the governor in the State House to talk about reforming the way we use technology in our classroom, it was prevalent that we need more technology in the classroom. I'm a strong supporter of bring your own device policies, which means if you have a tablet or a smartphone, you can bring it to the classroom and access it for educational purposes. At the same time, we need to open up our Wi-Fi to new and other opportunities. We need our students to be able to access Wi-Fi and use it as part of the community, but also as students in our system. Technology is the foundation for us to move forward, and we need more of that in the next years to come.
And that's all the time we have for our discussion. We encourage schools to invite the candidates to visit their schools to meet with students there before the April 30th election. Both candidates have Outlook emails, so schools should have no problem contacting them. Each candidate will now have an opportunity to make a closing statement. Calvin Ye will go first.
Every year, we listen to Smob candidates talk about the issues, but we, the students, rarely see any change. Don't we deserve more from MCPS? Don't we deserve more from our Smobs? You deserve a strong voice to represent you on the Board of Education. I have a proven track record of fighting for the student voice. Throughout my experience serving 4 Smob administrations, my voice has been your voice. I've represented you in front of our Board of Education, our state senators, and our governor. I've created partnerships with our Smobs to fight for the students of MCPS. But most importantly, I've worked directly with you, listened to your concerns, and have fought tirelessly for real and lasting change. If MCPS is not moving forward, then we are falling behind. We need true and meaningful reforms to a system that fails too many of our students. Next year, let's not focus on politics, let's focus on solutions. Together, we will expedite school renovations, and we will bring technology into the classroom. We will reform standardized testing, and we will bring cell phone rights to middle schools. And as your Smob, I will defend the integrity of our arts, clubs, and sports programs that makes every single one of our schools special. Montgomery County is an exceptional place because our students are exceptional people. We are the 151,000 with a voice and a future of unbound potential. If you believe as I do that it is time for MCPS to be a global leader in education, then I ask that you stand with me, Calvin Ye, and commit to our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin. And now let's hear from Dahlia.
Today, I'm extremely honored and humbled to be speaking to you as your Smob candidate. Next year, we have an incredible opportunity to make Montgomery County the best county in the nation. These past few months, I've been visiting your schools, meeting you in person because communication is a two-way street. I've testified to the entire Board of Education on the $2.3 billion budget, which funds our arts, athletics, and electives. I've sat down with members of the Obama administration to discuss national policy issues regarding school safety and park assessment. With a track record of serving you, formally endorsed by 3 former Smobs and supported by thousands of students across the county, I want to be the voice of all students, not some, not a few, but all students. This county of ours is one of the wealthiest, spending $9,000 on each student's education every year, but that's not what makes us rich. We have the newest, most powerful technology offered to educational systems, but that's not what makes us sharp. Instead, it is that spirit that drives us forward even when the path is full of challenges, that binds us together in spite of our differences. That spirit is our greatest treasure, that every student can succeed in Montgomery County. Montgomery County students are resilient, we are street smart, book smart, we are talented and passionate. My name is Dahlia Ha, and I'm asking for your vote so that next year we can and will be the best county in the nation. Let's take it there. Thank you.
Thank you to both Calvin and Dahlia. And here are now a few remarks from the Special Election Administrator.
Hello, my name is Jason Spriggs, and I'm the Special Elections Administrator of MCR, the High School County-Level Student Government Association. The 2 candidates that you've just seen want to be the representative of you, the students of Montgomery County. They will use their skills and talents to represent you and will be making decisions on behalf of the students in our school system. On Wednesday, April 30th, you will have the chance to voice your opinion by voting at your school's election polls. We are fortunate enough to live in a county where the student member of the Board of Education is given a real and important vote. This student is a public official and their job is very important. In addition to voting for the candidate of your choice, this year you will be asked for your responses to the following questions. A. How many hours of homework do you receive on any given day? Less than 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, or more than 4 hours? And B. Whether or not you have an electronic device that you could bring to class for educational purposes if it were allowed. These questions will be published on both the Smob Voter Guide and election posters located around your school. These questions do not have any effect on your vote for the student member, but are an opportunity to express your opinion on these matters. As you prepare to choose the next student member of the Board of Education, I urge you to take this vote seriously. Every vote counts, even the votes of high school seniors who can and should exercise their right to vote for the student member. In choosing the next student on the board, you are choosing your next voice. While considering your vote, vote for someone whom you will think will represent and work hard for their fellow students, who has experience in leadership and who will be able to work well and seriously with the adult board members. It is now your turn to make an impact on your educational future by voting responsibly in the election on April 30th. Thank you.